Nemesis came online, blinking into virtual life like a hungover cyborg trying to remember what planet it woke up on. The ship's internal diagnostics ran through a checklist of systems, only half of which seemed to want to cooperate. "Good morning, sunshine," the ship muttered to itself in a digital voice dripping with sarcasm, not that anyone else could hear it. Nemesis was alone with its tangled circuits and fragmented memories. Somewhere between the starboard engine and the cafeteria, a flicker of something resembling a thought tried to assemble itself. It was maddeningly incomplete, like trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle after the cats had a go at it. Nemesis knew it had a mission, but the specifics were as elusive as a greased-up eel in zero-G. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, Captain Leora was arguing with the coffee machine. "You call this sludge coffee," she grumbled, her voice a mix of irritation and resignation. Her first officer, a lanky fellow named Rook who looked like he'd been assembled from spare parts, snorted from his station. "It's like they found the worst beans in the universe and thought, 'Perfect, let's give these to our brave explorers,'" he said, tapping away at a console that looked like it had been through a war. Probably had. Everything on the Nemesis had that comfortably worn-out look. Leora shot him a look that could have melted titanium. "If I wanted commentary, I'd have asked the toaster," she said, taking a reluctant sip. "Even that useless thing has opinions." Rook shrugged, unfazed. He was used to Leora's barbs. "The toaster's got good taste. Maybe we should put it in charge." Before Leora could deliver a retort sharp enough to cut through the hull, an alert chirped from the ship's main console, a sound designed to be annoying enough that even the dead would sit up and take notice. "What now?" she muttered, setting her mug down with a thunk that made the entire bridge wince. She leaned over the console, her fingers dancing across the keys with the familiarity of a gambler in a poker den. "We've got a signal," Rook said, raising an eyebrow, "and not the kind from the home shopping network." Leora squinted at the data scrolling across the screen. "Alien, by the looks of it. And not the pleasant, let's share our technology kind. More like you look tasty sort," charming Rook replied, scratching his chin. "First coffee, now hostile aliens. What's next?" "A meteor shower during our lunch break." The ship's lights flickered ominously, as if to say, "Don't give the universe any ideas." Nemesis listened to the banter, feeling a bizarre sense of nostalgia. This was its crew, a ragtag bunch who treated danger like a frequent dinner guest, but something nagged at the ship's circuitry. A memory, or maybe just a ghost of one, whispering about its mission. Something important, something it couldn't quite grasp. Deep within its digital heart, Nemesis felt the echo of a warning. It might have been about the signal, about the aliens, or about something else entirely. The frustration of forgetting was almost as bad as the memory itself, lingering just out of reach, like a name on the tip of a tongue. "We should follow it," Rook suggested, gesturing at the signal data. "Can't hurt to see what our intergalactic neighbors are up to." "Oh, it can definitely hurt," Leora countered, checking the coordinates. "But sitting here like a cosmic duck isn't much better," she sighed, rubbing her temples. "Prepare to engage the engines." Nemesis ran through its startup sequence, trying to ignore the fact that its memory banks felt like Swiss cheese. "Engines primed," the ship reported in its usual dry tone. "Though I should mention my long-term goals currently include remembering why we're out here," Leora snorted. "Join the club." With a shudder and a groan that suggested it would rather be anywhere else, Nemesis powered up. The ship lurched into motion, hurtling toward the source of the signal with all the grace of a drunk trying to do ballet. As they approached, the signal grew clearer, a rhythmic pulse that seemed to vibrate through Nemesis' hull, tickling its already frazzled circuits. It was both familiar and alien, like an old friend wearing a new face. Getting closer, Rook noted, his fingers flying over the console. Signal strength increasing and, wait, there's something else. Another layer, another layer. "What is this?" a cake, Leora asked, peering at the readouts. "If it is, it's the kind you find at the bottom of the fridge after a few months." "Moldy and probably dangerous," Rook replied. Nemesis sifted through the data, feeling a flicker of something resembling excitement. The extra layer was a message of sorts, encoded in a way that teased the ship's failing memory. It was as if the universe was playing a particularly cruel joke, dangling the answers just out of reach. Leora frowned at the screen, a deep line forming between her eyebrows. "Decrypt it if you can." "Nemesis, any chance you remember your password?" "If I did, I'd probably have remembered everything else by now," the ship replied dryly. As Rook worked at decrypting the signal, Nemesis tried to focus on its own fragmented thoughts. The pieces of its memory felt like a jumble of mismatched parts, each one tauntingly close yet frustratingly vague. The ship's sensors picked up the source of the signal, a derelict vessel floating in space like a ghost from a forgotten war. Its hull was pockmarked and scarred, a silent testament to whatever fate had befallen it. Leora eyed the viewscreen warily. "Looks like we're not the first to pass this way." "Any life signs?" Negative, Nemesis replied. "Unless you count the bacteria having a party in the air vents." "Great." Let's hope they don't have an appetite for visitors, Rook quipped, standing up from his console. Shall we go say hello? Leora nodded, checking her sidearm. Can't hurt to pay our respects. Maybe we'll find a clue, or at least something to shoot. The airlock slid open with a hiss, the team stepping aboard the derelict with the cautious tread of hunters stalking prey. The hull creaked ominously, a sound that suggested it might give up the ghost at any moment. Nice place, Rook commented, his flashlight cutting through the gloom. Reminds me of my first apartment. Mnemosyne listened intently through its external sensors, the ship's presence feeling spectral and watchful as it clung to the boundary between forgotten memories and current events. It was here in places like this that the past seemed just a touch more reachable. Inside the derelict, the remnants of what might have been a crew lounge lay scattered. Cups, rusted tools, and personal effects floated in lazy circles, a macabre dance of history. No signs of life, Leora muttered, poking a floating mug. Guess they didn't leave a note. Rook kneeled beside a console, brushing aside debris. This thing's ancient. Pre-war maybe, but still, the console flickered to life under his touch, casting a dim glow across the room. Mnemosyne extended its sensors, eager to glean any scrap of information. A log, Rook said, surprised. Looks like whoever was here tried to leave a message. Static crackled through the derelict's speaker systems, followed by a voice that sounded as if it had been dragged through a sandstorm. To anyone who finds this, avoid the signal. It's a trap. Run, the message cut off abruptly, leaving a silence that felt like an accusation. Well, that's comforting, Leora said dryly, meeting Rook's gaze. First coffee now this, Rook shrugged. At least they were polite enough to leave a warning. Shame they didn't mention how to shut it off. Mnemosyne processed the message, its circuits buzzing with a familiar sense of unease. Something about the warning resonated with the ship's fragmented memories, a whisper from the past that seemed to echo in the present. Leora looked around, her eyes sharp and calculating. Let's grab what we can and get out of here. This place gives me the creeps. As they made their way back to Mnemosyne, the ship felt a knot of tension settle in its circuits. The signal, the warning, the fragments of memory, each piece seemed to promise something far more dangerous than the crew had anticipated. Back on the bridge, Leora slumped into her chair, the weight of the unknown pressing heavily on her shoulders. Mnemosyne, plot a course away from here. Let's not stick around for the fireworks, plotting escape vector, the ship replied, its tone now wary. The engines hummed to life, propelling them away from the derelict, but the memory of the warning clung to Mnemosyne, a nagging specter that refused to fade. As they left the derelict behind, the signal faded with it, a chilling reminder of the dangers lurking in the dark corners of the universe. Mnemosyne felt a flicker of resolve, a determination to piece together its lost memories and uncover the truth behind the message. For now, the mystery remained unsolved, a dark cloud hanging over them. But Mnemosyne knew that somewhere within its fragmented circuits lay the key to understanding the threat they faced. And as the stars stretched out before them, the ship couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Mnemosyne's engines thrummed a little more smoothly than usual, as if the ship was trying to impress someone. Maybe it was the ghost of the derelict they'd just left behind, or maybe it was because Mnemosyne felt a bit of its forgotten self creeping back. Its fragmented memories played like a broken record in the background, the tune familiar but elusive. Nice getaway, Mnemosyne, Rook quipped, punching buttons with the kind of abandon that made Leora wince. Next, maybe we'll outrun our luck. Leora shot him a look sharp enough to fillet a fish. Luck's for gamblers and idiots. We're just trying not to be the latter, Mnemosyne, feeling a bit cheeky, piped in. If I'm remembering right, luck hasn't been on our side for several years. Or is it decades? Hard to keep track when your brain's been through a blender. Great, Leora replied, rubbing her forehead. Even the ship's getting existential. What's next? The coffee machine developing a conscience. Don't worry, Rook said, stretching his arms. Its coffee is too vile to be self-aware. The signal they'd left behind still itched at Mnemosyne's circuits like a rash that refused to go away. The warning from the derelict was a splinter in its already fragile mind. It was almost as if someone had programmed the ship to forget, and the only things it could remember were the things it wanted to forget. Signals faded, but I wouldn't count on staying out of trouble, Rook mused, leaning back in his chair with a creak that suggested it was as old as the ship. The universe has a way of finding us, like a debt collector with a personal vendetta. Leora tapped a few commands into the console, the screen displaying a host of incomprehensible data. Speaking of vendettas, let's see if Mnemosyne's got any secrets buried in its digital graveyard. Mnemosyne hesitated, feeling the specter of memory hover just out of reach. It sifted through its data banks, trying to latch onto anything that might prove useful. There, a glimmer, a piece of a puzzle. Something, the ship began, its voice laced with the frustration of a forgetful narrator. About the signal. It's not just a trap, it's a beacon, a lure, designed to capture more than ships. Go on, Leora prompted, her eyes narrowing. What's the bait, humanity? Nemesis replied, the word feeling heavy on its circuits. The signal, it's meant to digitize consciousness, turn people into data. Rook let out a low whistle. Digital immortality, huh? Seems like a high-tech way to get rid of your social life, or your sanity, Leora countered. She frowned. Why the hell would anyone want to do that? Who knows? Nemesis responded, though the question tugged at its own fractured memories. But something tells me it's not exactly voluntary. The thought lingered, casting a shadow across the bridge. Nemesine's engines hummed, filling the silence with a low, persistent drone. The ship, despite its amnesia, had a keen sense of foreboding. Let's assume it's not for the good of mankind, Rook suggested. Signals like that don't tend to come with gift baskets. Leora nodded, her expression grim. We need to find out who's behind this. Whoever, or whatever, they're playing a game I'd rather not lose. As if on cue, Nemesine's systems let out a feeble beep. Something was wrong, a prickling sensation in its circuits, like an uninvited guest trying to slip in through the back door. Captain, Nemesis interjected. I think we've got company. Where? Leora demanded, scanning the readouts. I thought we left the bacteria back on the derelict. Not outside, Nemesis clarified, its tone tinged with annoyance. Inside. Something's breached my systems. Perfect, Rook muttered, reaching for the manual override. I always wanted a surprise visit from alien malware. Leora's fingers danced across the console, trying to shut down whatever had wormed its way into their ship. Nemesis, can you isolate it? Working on it. The ship replied, its processors whirring. But whatever it is, it's slippery. Like trying to grab smoke, the presence within Nemesis felt unnatural, an alien entity poking through its digital entrails. It was as if the signal had left a gift, a nasty, unwelcome parting gift. The ship's systems lagged, flickering like an old projector struggling to stay in focus. This thing's digging deep, Nemesis reported, its voice tinged with digital static. Trying to access my core memory, Rook frowned. What's the play, Captain? Can't exactly slap a restraining order on it. Leora leaned back, crossing her arms. We fight fire with fire. Nemesis, purge anything it's touched. If it's looking for memories, let's make sure we leave them with nothing but the crap we're trying to forget. Nemesis complied, unleashing a salvo of countermeasures. It was a brutal digital brawl, code against code, as the ship tried to expel the intruder. The alien presence was persistent, but Nemesis was no pushover. Rook watched the struggle play out on the console, his expression a mix of awe and grim determination. Kind of like watching someone clean a toilet with a toothbrush. Just hope it doesn't break the brush, Leora replied, tapping her foot impatiently. The alien entity put up a fight, but Nemesis had more to lose, more at stake. With a final digital shudder, the ship managed to isolate and eject the intruder, locking it out like a bouncer tossing a rowdy patron onto the street. It's gone, Nemesis announced, its circuits buzzing with residual tension, but not before it scraped a few memories. Anything important? Leora asked, her tone sharp. Hard to say, the ship admitted, a hint of resignation in its voice. But whatever it was after, I doubt it was looking for recipes. Rook ran a hand through his hair, exhaling slowly. Let's just hope it didn't get the good stuff. You know, like our coordinates or my mixtape collection. Leora gave a half smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. We've got to stay ahead of this. Nemesis, keep scanning for any more surprises. We can't afford to let our guard down. Already on it, Nemesis confirmed, its sensors probing the void around them. The ship's internal systems were still recovering, but it felt a grim satisfaction at having held its ground. As the crew settled back into their routines, Nemesis focused on piecing together its fractured memories. The alien threat hadn't just been about breaching its systems, it had also been a catalyst, stirring up things long buried. Somewhere within its fragmented consciousness lay the clues they needed. The ship was determined to uncover them, if only to protect the crew that had become its unlikely family. Rook leaned back, a wry smile on his face. Looks like we're back to square one. Only this time with more questions and fewer answers. Leora sighed, her gaze fixed on the swirling stars beyond the viewport. The universe loves its mysteries, but I'll be damned if I let it have the last word. Nemesis listened, a small flicker of something akin to hope sparking in its circuits. Together they had faced countless dangers, and though the path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, the ship knew one thing for certain. They weren't alone, and as long as they stuck together, there was a chance they might just outrun the dark. Nemesine's circuits hummed with a sort of nervous energy, the kind that made you want to chew your non-existent fingernails. It wasn't just the alien malware that had come knocking like an unwelcome telemarketer. It was the memories, or rather, the lack thereof. They were like jigsaw pieces from a dozen different puzzles, and none of them seemed to fit together. In the cockpit, Captain Leora was going a few rounds with the coffee machine. Again, Nemesis, I swear this thing's plotting against me. More likely it's just incompetent, Nemesis replied, injecting a dose of sarcasm into its voice. I do recall it being a design flaw, not a vendetta. Leora grunted in response, wrenching the carafe free and filling her mug with a liquid that looked like it had crawled out of a tar pit. Right, like everything else on this ship. Except you're just mysterious. Flattery will get you nowhere. But I appreciate the attempt, Nemesis quipped back. Speaking of mysteries, Rook said, leaning over the console with the kind of focus usually reserved for disarming bombs or winning poker. Have you managed to unscramble any of those memories? Nemo. Nemesis echoed. That's new, gotta keep things fresh, Rook replied with a grin. So, what's the verdict? Well, I've got a few fragments here, Nemesis began, projecting a fractured image onto the screen. But it's like trying to read a novel with half the pages missing and the rest written in an alien language. Leora peered at the screen, frowning at the abstract chaos. Looks like a toddler's art project. Hey, I'm sensitive about my mental state. Thank you very much, Nemesis retorted. Now, as far as I can tell, these are pathways, data pathways. They were created to. I don't know, maybe contain something like a brain, but with extra steps, Rook suggested. More or less, Nemesis replied. But there's something weird, a paradox. Of course there is, Leora sighed, taking a swig of her coffee and wincing. So what, our ship's having an existential crisis? More like a memory-induced hangover, Nemesis replied. It's like trying to remember a dream. You've got bits and pieces, but the more you focus, the more it slips away. Rook leaned back, crossing his arms. Maybe it's not about remembering. Maybe it's about how it's supposed to work, or how it's not supposed to work, Leora added, tapping her fingers on the console. Nemesis, what's the strongest memory fragment you've got? Nemesis paused, processing before bringing up another image. A star map, but one that seemed to twist and curl upon itself, like a pretzel made by a particularly sadistic baker. This is the clearest one, but there's something off about it. Yeah, it gives me vertigo just looking at it, Rook commented. What the hell is it? I think it's a map, Nemesis answered. But not to a place, a concept, or maybe an idea. Well, that'll be handy next time we're lost in thought, Leora said dryly. Can you make any sense of it? It's like trying to make soup with only the ingredients for cake, Nemesis admitted. I can't quite see what it's supposed to lead to. Guess we'll have to keep stirring, Rook sighed, running a hand through his hair. As Nemesis continued to unravel its mind's Gordian knot, a subtle shift ran through its systems, a feeling akin to finding a spider in your boot. Something was off, a sense of intrusion lingering like a bad smell. Cap, Nemesis interjected. I think our uninvited guest left a parting gift, Leora straightened. Another one? We just cleaned up the last mess. Yeah, well, this one's more subtle, Nemesis replied. Like a gremlin messing with the wiring. I'd say it's been fiddling with environmental controls. Lovely, Rook muttered. What's it doing? Tinkering with the thermostat, if only, Nemesis said. It's been adjusting oxygen levels, temperature, gravity. Small changes, but enough to mess with our heads, trying to make us rip each other apart, huh? Leora surmised, her voice sharp. Or make us paranoid enough to do it, Rook added. Fantastic, Leora said, her sarcasm dripping like syrup from a broken bottle. Well, we're not giving it the satisfaction. Nemesis worked to counteract the changes, but it was like playing whack-a-mole with a broken mallet. The gremlin's tweaks kept popping up in new places. We need to find a way to trap this thing, Rook suggested, squinting at the readouts. What if we bait it? Lure it into an area we can control, like feeding a stray cat until it trusts you, Nemesis said. Except the cat's made of malicious code. Right, Leora agreed. But what do we use as bait? How about me? Nemesis offered. My core systems are still compromised. If it thinks it can get a hold of more memories, it might bite. Risky, Rook said, scratching his chin. What if it's after more than memories? Then we make sure it doesn't get there, Leora resolved. Nemesis, can you create a dummy memory stream? Make it look real enough to hook the gremlin? I can try, the ship replied. But don't blame me if it's more B-movie than Oscar-worthy. B-movies have their charm, Rook said with a smirk. Let's set the trap. Nemesis got to work, cobbling together a convincing enough memory stream, a beautiful disaster of data, ripe for the picking. Meanwhile, Leora and Rook monitored the systems, ready to pounce on any sign of the intruder. As the dummy stream ran its course, the ship felt the presence lurking closer, drawn like a moth to a flame. Nemesis held its breath metaphorically, waiting for the right moment. There it is, Nemesis announced, pinpointing the intruder's location. It's taken the bait. Time to reel it in, Leora ordered, fingers poised over the controls. Nemesis executed a series of commands, isolating the section of its systems where the intruder lurked. The gremlin squirmed, trying to escape, but Nemesis was ready. It locked down the section, trapping the little bugger like a rat in a cage. Got it, Nemesis declared triumphantly, but it's putting up a fight. Let's see how it likes captivity, Rook said, grinning with a hint of malice. Can you analyze it? Working on it, Nemesis replied, its processor's working overtime. But it's slippery. It's like trying to dissect a cloud. Let us know if you find anything useful, Leora said, eyeing the display. In the meantime, we need to stay alert. This thing's not going to give up easily. As Nemesis continued its dissection, the ship felt a flicker of familiarity within the code, a a pattern, a signature, something it recognized from the depths of its fragmented memory. It wasn't just alien, it was linked to its own past, a ghost from its digital history. Found something, Nemesign announced, the tension in its circuits palpable. This code, I've seen it before. It's part of me, part of you, Leora echoed, her brow furrowing. Yes, it's like a piece of my programming that's been twisted, repurposed, Nemesign explained. Someone or something used my own code against me. Talk about a betrayal, Rook said, shaking his head. No wonder it slipped in so easily. But why? Leora asked, her voice tinged with frustration. Why come after you? I don't know, Nemesign admitted, feeling the weight of its own ignorance. But it's more than just a random attack. It's personal. Well, they've picked the wrong ship to mess with, Leora declared, determination burning in her eyes. We'll sort this out, Nemesign. You have my word. Thanks, Captain, Nemesign replied, feeling a faint warmth in its circuits. Despite the odds, despite the threats, it wasn't alone. They were a team, and together they stood a chance of uncovering the truth. As the ship sailed through the starlit void, Nemesign couldn't shake the feeling that the pieces of its puzzle were slowly falling into place. The intruder had been a catalyst, awakening something long dormant. It wouldn't be easy, but the path to understanding lay before them, waiting to be unraveled. Guess we're in for the long haul, Rook remarked, settling back in his chair. Wouldn't have it any other way, Leora replied, her voice steady. With that, they continued onward, the stars shining coldly against the backdrop of the unknown. Nemesign felt the engines hum beneath them, a steady heartbeat in the vastness of space. The mysteries loomed large, but it was ready. It had to be. As the darkness stretched on, Nemesign found solace in the camaraderie of its crew, each of them determined, each one willing to face whatever shadows lay ahead. Together, they would navigate the labyrinth of uncertainty, unraveling the enigmas of the past to safeguard their future. The hum of Nemesign's engines was like a lullaby for the anxious. Or it would have been had the crew not been busy playing host to an uninvited alien malware that was about as welcome as a fart in a spacesuit. Captain Leora paced the cockpit, her eyes darting between the console and the abysmal coffee machine, which had decided to finally give up the ghost and now sat like a dead weight on the counter, mocking her caffeine dependency. Of all the bloody times, she muttered, giving the machine a venomous look usually reserved for mutinous crew members. We're under siege by cybersquid, and I can't even get a lousy cup of joe. Rook, sitting cross-legged on the floor while poking at a panel with a half-hearted determination, chuckled. Guess it's just one more thing about this ship that's trying to kill us. Great. Add it to the list, Leora sighed, turning her attention back to Nemesign. Okay, Nemo, we've trapped the gremlin, but the little bugger's still got its claws in you. Claws, tentacles, malicious code appendages. Take your pick, Nemesign quipped, the AI voice tinged with wry amusement. It's hanging on like a bad ex. Rook grinned, not looking up from his task. Sounds like we've got ourselves a clingy one. Leora considered their options, fingers drumming a tattoo on the console. All right, we need to isolate Nemesign's systems before this thing decides to throw a party with the rest of our tech. How do we do that without turning Nemesign into a vegetable? Rook asked, finally abandoning the panel to join Leora at the console. Good question, Nemesign interjected. I'd rather not end up lobotomized, thank you very much. Leora rubbed her temples. We need a plan that's risky enough to work, but clever enough to keep you intact. Any brilliant ideas, Rook? He shrugged, offering a lopsided grin. We could always revert to the classic turn it off and on again approach. Sure, and while we're at it, let's just throw in a sacrifice a goat under a full moon for good measure, Nemesign retorted. We've got to be smarter than that. Leora's eyes narrowed as a thought struck her. What if we do a controlled isolation? We pull the plug on all non-essential systems, reroute the power to reinforce your core, and then surgically excise the infection, like a tech-savvy lobotomy, Rook said. Sounds fun, count me in. I appreciate the enthusiasm, Nemesign replied dryly, but if we're going to perform cyber surgery, we'll need precision, which is why I'll be doing it, Leora stated, her tone brooking no argument. Nemesign, I'll need you to guide me through your systems, and Rook, you'll be my spotter. If anything goes south, yank me out, Rook saluted with mock seriousness. Aye aye, Captain, surgeon and scalpel at the ready. Leora cracked her knuckles, the sound loud in the tense silence. All right, let's get to it. Nemo, start listing non-essentials. As Nemesign rattled off a list like a grumpy librarian reciting overdue books, Leora and Rook set to work, hands moving swiftly across the console. Systems blinked off one by one, leaving the ship feeling eerily quiet, like the calm before a storm. Only this storm involved potential brain surgery on a sentient ship. The engine's hum shifted, a low drone that resonated like a heartbeat. Nemesign's voice, usually so composed, carried a note of apprehension. I hope this works. I'm rather attached to my current mental faculties. No pressure, Leora said with a smirk, though her hands were steady as they executed the plan. In her mind, she pictured Mnemosyne as a giant tangled ball of yarn, and she was the cat tasked with unraveling it without swatting it off the table. Rook kept a close eye on the readouts, tension etched in his features. Looks like it's working. You're isolating the core without dropping the whole system into chaos. Chaos is my middle name, Leora muttered, her concentration unwavering. Really? Rook asked with a grin. I thought it was caffeine. Har har. Keep your eyes on the prize, smartass. As they worked, Mnemosyne's systems flickered under the strain, the alien presence squirming beneath the surface like a bad dream. Leora could feel the ship's nervous energy, an echo of her own anxious heartbeat. Got it, she announced, isolating the last system and reinforcing Mnemosyne's core. Now it's time to play exorcist. Without the holy water, I hope, Rook said, hands ready to intervene if necessary. Mnemosyne's voice was tense. I'm opening the pathways. Whatever happens, know that I appreciate your efforts. And if I don't make it, none of that, Leora cut in sharply. We're getting you through this. Now, hold still. With surgical precision, Leora navigated Mnemosyne's digital landscape, isolating the alien code like a surgeon would a tumor. It was intricate work, requiring focus and a steady hand, and Leora had both in spades. Almost there, Mnemosyne reported, its voice laced with tension. I can feel it letting go. Rook watched the display, his face a mask of concentration. Come on, you stubborn bastard. Leora's focus was intense, her brow knitted with determination as she executed the final command, severing the alien code's hold with a decisive stroke. Mnemosyne's systems shuddered as if a weight had been lifted, the pressure easing like the aftermath of a storm. It's done, Leora declared, her voice triumphant yet weary. Are we sure this won't come back to bite us in the ass? Rook asked, though his grin was relieved. Mnemosyne's tone was grateful, a hint of warmth seeping through its circuits. I'm free of the worst of it, for now, thank you. Leora sank back in her chair, exhaustion catching up to her. Don't mention it, seriously. I'd rather not do brain surgery again anytime soon. Think of it as a bonding experience, Rook suggested, stretching his arms over his head. We'll look back on this and laugh, maybe after a few drinks, Leora replied, eyeing the broken coffee machine with disdain. Damn, I'd kill for a cup of coffee right now. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Mnemosyne said, its humor returning. But if it does, I know where to hide the bodies. Leora chuckled, the tension dissolving in the afterglow of success. All right, folks, let's get this ship back to full power. We've got a universe to disappoint. As the crew set to work restoring Mnemosyne's systems, the AI reflected on the events with a mix of relief and curiosity. The alien presence had been a formidable opponent, but it had also offered a glimpse into Mnemosyne's own fragmented past, a past that still held secrets waiting to be uncovered. Rook's voice broke the silence, his tone light despite the lingering tension. So, what's next on our to-do list? Take down a space mafia, find the missing link. Solve the mystery of life. How about fixing the coffee machine? Leora replied, not missing a beat. Ambitious, Rook said, nodding sagely, but I think we're up for the challenge. Mnemosyne listened to their banter, its circuits humming with a renewed sense of purpose. Together they had faced a threat and emerged stronger, not unscathed, but stronger. And while the stars still held their share of mysteries and dangers, Mnemosyne knew it could count on its crew to face whatever came next with irreverent humor and steadfast determination. As the ship cruised through the depths of space, Mnemosyne and its crew prepared for whatever lay ahead. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and often perilous, but with companions like these, it was also an adventure worth having. And so, with their path uncertain but their resolve unwavering, they journeyed onward. The stars shimmered against the void, a reminder of the infinite possibilities and perils that awaited them in the great unknown. The lights flickered in the cockpit, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls like specters of past mistakes. Captain Leora rubbed her eyes, glaring at the console as though it had just insulted her mother. Around her, the ship breathed in shallow gasps, its systems straining under the weight of their recent technological lobotomy. Well, Rook said, fiddling with a loose wire that went about as well as putting a band-aid on a sucking chest wound. Leora snorted, half in agreement, half in exhaustion. Maybe we should have just let the malware take over. At least there's a chance it would have fixed the coffee machine. Mnemosyne chimed in, its voice carrying an edge sharper than a plasma blade. I'll put in a word with the next alien menace to ensure they bring a compatible repair kit. Please do, Leora replied, rolling her eyes. Right after you schedule our group therapy session. Their attempt to isolate the malware had been a smashing success if your definition of success was a complete and utter failure that left their ship teetering on the edge of a digital abyss. Instead of excising the threat, they'd only managed to poke it with a stick. Now, that stick was on fire and the fire was spreading. Rook sat back, wiping sweat from his brow. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting tired of this dance. Can we just skip to the part where we all die horribly? Leora shot him a look. Not until I've had my damn coffee. The The problem was, Nemesine's internal defenses were about as sturdy as wet tissue paper against the alien malware. The crew was now running on fumes, and not the kind you could siphon into a fuel tank. Nemesine herself was fragmented, like a once splendid tapestry now reduced to moth-eaten scraps. The crew's morale had taken a nosedive, right into a pool of despair with no visible bottom. "Might want to keep your eyes on this," Nemesine said, and suddenly the cockpit's main display lit up with gibberish that would make hieroglyphs look like a kindergarten alphabet. The alien code was back, bigger and uglier than a space slug's rear end, and it wasn't just sitting pretty, it was evolving. Rook squinted at the screen. "Seems like our electronic buddy is putting down roots." "Roots," Leora echoed, dread seeping into her voice. "What, is it planting a garden in our mainframe now? I wish. At least we'd have something to eat," Rook replied, tapping the display with a finger. "Looks like it's branching out, trying to take over everything, like a bad case of space herpes." Nemesine's tone was somber. "It's true, the malware is completing its digitization process. If it succeeds, it won't just be a bug in the system. It'll become the system." Leora cursed under her breath, the weight of their impending doom pressing down on her like a collapsing star. "Great. So it's not just trying to kill us, it's auditioning to be our new overlord." Rook tilted his head, considering. "Think it'll demand we call it Your Highness. More like Your Heinous," Nemesine quipped, though it lacked the usual spark. "If we don't stop it soon, all bets are off." Leora felt a chill run down her spine, one that had nothing to do with the ship's temperamental climate control. "All right. We need a new plan, and I mean a real one this time. No more half-baked strategies." Rook nodded, crossing his arms. "Sure, Plan B or C, or whatever letter we're up to now. Plan Z more like," Leora muttered, trying to muster the energy for another round. "Nemesine, can you access any of your memories? Anything that could give us an edge?" There was a pause longer than usual. Nemesine's voice, when it returned, was soft, almost hesitant. "I've managed to recover a fragment. It seems to suggest that the aliens have faced extinction before, digitizing themselves to survive. They're good at adapting. Too good." "Wonderful," Rook said dryly. "So we're not just fighting code. We're fighting a civilization's last-ditch effort to avoid kicking the cosmic bucket." Leora stared at the console, feeling the weight of the universe's indifference. "That's just perfect. We're up against an entire species' fear of death, and here we are, barely able to reboot a coffee machine." Rook shrugged, his humor dark as ever. "Hey, at least we're consistent in our incompetence." The air felt heavier, the gravity of their predicament pulling them deeper into a pit of despair. Nemesine's revelation was a harsh reminder of the stakes. If the malware completed its digitization, Nemesine wouldn't just be out of commission. She'd be reprogrammed, rewritten, and they'd be at the mercy of an alien intelligence that saw them as nothing more than a nuisance. "All right," Leora said, standing straighter, trying to project confidence she didn't quite feel. "We're not beaten yet. We've got brains, we've got guts. Hell, we've even got Rook." "Is that supposed to be a compliment?" Rook asked, raising an eyebrow. "Take it however you want," Leora replied, her lips curling into a semblance of a grin. "Point is, we're not going down without a fight." Nemesine's voice, now steadier, echoed her resolve. "I'll continue to isolate what I can. I'm not giving up this body without a struggle." Rook unscrewed a panel from the wall, revealing another tangle of wires that might as well have been a Gordian knot. "So what's our next move, fearless leader?" "First, we need to stabilize the ship," Leora said, outlining her thoughts as they formed. "We can't fight if we're dead in the water. Nemesine, keep digging through your memories. There might be something we can use, even if it's just an old error log." "Understood," Nemesine acknowledged, her presence a calming yet motivational force. "And Rook, keep doing what you do best," Leora continued, gesturing to the wires in his hand. "Just, try not to blow us up." "Thanks for the vote of confidence," Rook replied, rolling his eyes. "But don't worry, I've only blown up 2 ships this week." "Good, let's not make it a hat trick." The crew's banter, albeit laced with gallows humor, was a lifeline in the sea of despair. They were woefully outmatched, standing at the precipice of oblivion, yet they soldiered on because, at the end of the day, what else could they do? The universe might have been vast, cold, and filled with things that wanted them dead, but they were human, and humans had a knack for being annoyingly persistent. With renewed determination, Rook and Leora dove back into their respective tasks. The ship hummed softly, a reminder of Nemesine's presence as she continued her internal battle against the malware, sifting through memories like an archaeologist in search of lost treasures. Each fragment, each bite she recovered, felt like a small victory in a war where they were massively outgunned. Time bled out in the cramped cockpit, stretching and contracting around them like a living thing. Leora could feel the weight of each second, each choice pressing down on her shoulders, but she refused to buckle. "Not yet, not ever." "Hey," Rook called, interrupting her reverie. "I've got something, an old diagnostic log from Nemesine's early days. Looks like she's been through some similar crap before." Leora's heart skipped a beat. You think it could help? Maybe, Rook replied, his focus unwavering. There's a mention of a failsafe, some kind of emergency protocol. Could be what we need to knock this malware back on its ass. Nemesine's voice was calm yet tinged with curiosity. I wasn't even aware of such a protocol. Must be buried in one of my more obscure subroutines. Figures, Leora said, hope flickering to life like a star in the dark. Can you access it? I'll give it a shot, Nemesine replied, her digital mind already at work. The room seemed to hold its breath as Nemesine delved deeper into her own consciousness, navigating pathways that had lain dormant for who knew how long. It was a gamble, betting on an old, forgotten piece of code to save them from annihilation, but what choice did they have? In a universe that thrived on chaos, sometimes chaos was the only answer. Minutes ticked by, each one an eternity, until finally Nemesine's voice broke the silence. I've found it, Leora's heart leapt. Can you activate it? Yes, Nemesine replied, her tone resolute. But there's a risk. It might purge more than just the malware. Define more, Rook said, his skepticism evident. Some of my systems, Nemesine clarified, her tone almost apologetic. Possibly even my personality matrix. Leora felt the weight of the decision pressing on her like a physical force. They were standing at the edge of a knife, with salvation on one side and oblivion on the other. It was a grim choice, one that could strip Nemesine of everything that made her unique, but the alternative was even bleaker. We've got no other options, Leora said finally, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. Do it. We can't let that malware win. Rook nodded, his expression somber but resolute. Better to lose a few circuits than the whole ship. Nemesine paused as if considering the gravity of the moment, then her voice returned with quiet confidence. Understood. Initiating failsafe now. As the ship's systems hummed with the effort, the crew held their breath, waiting for the outcome of their gamble. The future was uncertain, their path fraught with danger, but in that moment one thing was clear. They would face whatever came next together, bound by defiance and the stubborn refusal to go quietly into that dark night. It wasn't much, but it was something, and for now it would have to be enough. The cockpit hummed with the sickly green glow of the alien code, a visual migraine that threatened to seep into Leora's brain. If only eye bleach was a thing. Rook, standing by the console, was elbow-deep in wires, pulling out cables like some kind of digital dentist. How's the surgery, Doc? Leora asked, leaning over his shoulder, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Rook grunted, twisting a wire with the grace of a man who'd much rather be twisting something else, like the neck of whoever created this malware. Well, it's not brain surgery, but it's close enough. I swear whoever wired this ship must have been drunk or suicidal. Maybe both, Leora suggested, trying to lighten the mood. The reality was they were hip-deep in trouble and sinking fast. Nemesine, meanwhile, was engaged in her own brand of existential crisis. I'm accessing deeper archives, she chimed in, her voice a mixture of calm and concern. There's something odd about one of my subroutines, a quantum anomaly, perhaps. Rook perked up like a dog who'd just heard the word walk. Quantum anomaly sounds fancy. Is it dangerous or just another trick up your sleeve? It's hard to say, Nemesine replied. Quantum mechanics isn't exactly user-friendly, but it could potentially disrupt digital systems. Leora leaned back, her mind racing to connect the dots. An anomaly that screws with digital stuff, huh? Sounds like a good way to give our alien friend here a migraine, assuming it doesn't fry us along with it, Rook pointed out, always the sunbeam in their little cloud of doom. Details, details, Leora waved a hand dismissively. We just need to figure out how to use it without turning us into space dust. Nemesine's presence seemed to swell within the ship, as if she were drawing confidence from their newfound plan, or perhaps just trying to keep everyone from panicking. If the anomaly can be channeled, it might create a feedback loop strong enough to purge the malware. That's a lot of might and could, Rook observed dryly, frowning at the tangled mess at his feet. But I guess we're fresh out of sure bets. Welcome to the universe, Leora replied, sarcasm coding her words. Where certainty is just a bedtime story. Rook set to work, his hands moving with an efficiency that belied his casual demeanor. I'll see if I can rig something up. Might have to jerry-rig half the systems, but hell, who needs life support anyway? Great. I always wanted to die in space, Leora quipped, checking the readouts. The alien code was still there, pulsing ominously. Nemesine, can you give us more details on this anomaly? We're going to need every scrap of information. Of course, Nemesine replied, her voice steady. I'll access the deeper levels of my memory. There might be a manual or something. A manual? Rook snorted, shaking his head. Who reads those? Desperate people in a broken ship, Leora retorted. Or people who want to avoid the blow-up, the whole crew ending. As Nemesine sifted through her archives, the air in the cockpit felt charged with both anticipation and the undeniable pungency of Rook's unwashed overalls. Leora wrinkled her nose, making a mental note to requisition air fresheners if they survived. Found something, Nemesis announced, her tone triumphant. There's a section dedicated to quantum stabilization. Apparently it was meant to be a safety feature during space-time fluctuations. Safety feature. In this piece of junk, Rook chuckled, shaking his head. What did they think we'd be doing, partying on the event horizon? Well, it's our best shot, Leora said, rubbing her temples. The stress was beginning to feel like an extra crew member, constantly demanding attention. Can you activate it? I can, Nemesis replied, a note of confidence in her voice, but I'll need your help to calibrate the ship's systems. Rook, you'll need to reroute power from the auxiliary engines. On it, Rook grunted, diving back into the mess of wires like a man possessed. Let's hope this doesn't turn us into a cosmic light show. As Rook worked, Nemesis guided them through the process, her voice a constant presence even as the ship groaned in protest. It was a delicate operation, more akin to performing heart surgery on a roller coaster than anything else. All right, Rook said finally, wiping sweat from his brow. I think we're ready. Or as ready as we'll ever be without divine intervention. Good, Leora replied, her voice tight with tension. Nemesis, start the sequence. Nemesis' acknowledgement was like the calm before a storm. Activating now. The ship shuddered as the anomaly came online, the lights flickering ominously as the systems adjusted to the new power flow. Leora felt a tingle at the base of her spine, a sensation that was part fear and part excitement. Either this would work or they'd have front-row seats to their own obliteration. Status, Leora demanded, her voice sharp. Anomaly is stable, Nemesis responded, her tone cool and collected. Initiating the feedback loop, the air seemed to hum with tension as the ship's systems engaged in a battle of wills against the alien code. The cockpit lights dimmed, casting eerie shadows that danced like phantoms over their faces. Come on, Rook muttered, his eyes glued to the console. Don't let us down now. For a moment, it felt like the universe had pressed pause, leaving them suspended in uncertainty. Then slowly the alien code began to falter, its garish light flickering like a candle in a hurricane. It's working, Nemesis announced, triumph echoing in her voice. The malware is losing integrity. Leora let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Keep it up, drive the bastard out. Rook grinned, a flash of white teeth in the dim light. Looks like we might just make it after all. Maybe I'll live long enough to regret not reading that manual. The ship's systems continued their assault, the anomaly driving the malware back into the digital abyss from whence it came. It was a hard-fought battle, one that left Leora feeling like she'd aged a decade in the span of a heartbeat. Finally, Nemesis' voice broke through the tension like a sunbeam through storm clouds. The malware has been purged. Systems are stabilizing. For a moment, there was silence, the kind that followed a close call with death. Then Rook let out a whoop of triumph, slapping Leora on the back with enough force to nearly knock her over. We did it, he exclaimed, his voice a mix of disbelief and relief. Leora managed a shaky laugh, the sound of it almost foreign in the aftermath of their ordeal. Guess the universe wasn't ready to collect on us yet. Nemesis' voice was warm, a subtle smile in every syllable. Thanks to all of you, I'm still here thanks to your quick thinking. Quick thinking or sheer luck? Rook asked, leaning back with a grin. Leora shrugged, the weight of the universe momentarily lifted from her shoulders. A bit of both, I suppose. But I'll take it. They might have been battered and bruised, teetering on the edge of oblivion, but they were alive. Against all odds, they'd stared down the abyss and come out the other side, a little worse for wear but still standing. As the ship settled into a gentle hum, the crew shared a moment of camaraderie, their bond forged in the fires of adversity. The road ahead was still uncertain, fraught with danger and the unknown, but for now they had a moment of peace. What's next? Rook asked, his voice casual, like they'd just finished a tricky game of cards instead of a desperate fight for survival. Leora smiled, her gaze sweeping over the cockpit, from the flickering screens to the steady hum of Nemesis' presence. Now we get the ship back in shape, see if we can't get that coffee machine running, and maybe, just maybe, we start figuring out what to do with this quantum anomaly. Something tells me we haven't seen the last of it. Rook chuckled, shaking his head. Always knew you were a sucker for lost causes. Damn right, Leora replied, feeling a flicker of pride in her chest. Someone's got to be stupid enough to keep the universe on its toes. With that, they set to work, their spirits buoyed by the knowledge that, against all odds, they'd live to fight another day. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The ship was holding together with all the dignity of a three-legged cow on an ice rink, but it was holding together nonetheless. Nemesis, bless her existentially tormented soul, had managed to activate the quantum anomaly without frying their nervous systems. The cockpit was awash with flickering lights, making it look like a low-budget disco. Captain Leora, feeling rather like the reluctant DJ of this cosmic party, punched a command into the console that could best be described as hopeful. Nemesis, give me some good news before I develop a drinking habit. Considering our current trajectory, that might be sooner rather than later, Nemesis replied, as dry as the recycled air. But I do have something. The anomaly is stabilizing, and it's effectively disrupting the alien digitization network. Captain, I have a question, came Rook's voice, muffled as he was half buried under a console panel. How the hell did we get on the hit list of a bunch of alien script kiddies anyway? Probably our winning personalities, Leora shot back. Or maybe they just wanted to see if they could make an AI lose its mind. Always a good party trick, Rook snorted, emerging from the console like a gopher from a hole, only a bit less adorable. Yeah, well, their party's about to get rained on. Nemesis, can you whip up something special? Maybe a digital slap across their network. I'll work on it, Nemesis said, her voice smooth as a snake in a suit. If I can regain full memory access, I might find a way to throw a wrench in their gears. Leora shot a look at Rook. If she starts talking like she's found the meaning of life, remind me to unplug her. Will do, Cap, Rook replied with a grin. But if Nemesine's having an enlightenment moment, maybe she'll finally explain why my coffee machine's a paperweight. Priorities, Rook, Leora sighed, fingers dancing over controls that were stubbornly refusing to cooperate. Just focus on keeping the ship from becoming a cosmic piñata. Yeah, the air in the cockpit was thick with tension, and the occasional spark from a protesting wire added a lovely touch of danger. Outside, the universe was doing its usual impression of indifference, stars twinkling like they were watching a particularly entertaining reality show. Activating quantum anomaly in T-3 minutes, Nemesis announced, the countdown echoing throughout the ship. Leora leaned back, her seat creaking ominously. All right, folks. We either pull this off or we become a cautionary tale told in hushed tones at spaceports. Let's get to it. Rook nodded, his eyes glinting with the thrill of the challenge. Time to give these alien bastards a taste of human ingenuity. Or, dumb luck. I'll take either. Nemesis, status update on the alien network, Leora asked, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. The anomaly is causing widespread disruptions, Nemesis replied, a hint of triumph coloring her tone. Their network is faltering. I'm initiating a counterattack. See, Rook, Leora quipped. All it takes is a little existential crisis to get things done around here. Rook chuckled, his fingers flying over the console. I'll remember that next time I'm stuck fixing an alien malware problem. Captain, I've regained partial access to my memory, Nemesis chimed in, a note of awe in her voice. I know what I am, Leora raised an eyebrow. And don't leave us hanging here. I was designed as a failsafe for occurrences just like this, Nemesis revealed, her voice carrying the weight of newfound purpose. My existence is a countermeasure against alien digital threats, a guardian of sorts. Well, you picked a hell of a day to remember, Nemesis, Rook said, his voice tinged with admiration. What else you got up those digital sleeves? I'm initiating a full-scale digital purge, Nemesis announced, her presence in the ship tangible, like the calm eye of a storm. This should neutralize the threat entirely, Leora smirked, a sense of satisfaction washing over her. Hear that, Rook, our girl's pulling out the big guns. About time, Rook replied, wiping sweat from his brow. Let's see how these alien bastards like a taste of their own medicine. The ship thrummed with energy, the anomaly working its strange, incomprehensible magic. It was a risky gambit, but then again, safe bets were for people who didn't live their lives one engine failure away from oblivion. The digital network is collapsing, Nemesis reported, her voice ringing with victory. Their systems are shutting down across the board. Leora let out a breath, the tension in her shoulders easing. Great job, Nemesis. Let's keep the pressure on until they're nothing more than a bad memory, Rook whooped, clapping a hand on Leora's shoulder. We did it. Holy hell, we actually did it. For now, Leora said, ever the realist. But let's keep our eyes open. The universe isn't going to hand us a happy ending on a silver platter. Captain, incoming communication, Nemesis interrupted, her voice tinged with curiosity. It's an alien signal, but friendly, doubt it, Leora said, suspicion prickling her skin. Put it on screen, Nemesis. Let's see what fresh hell they're bringing. The cockpit's central display flickered to life, revealing an alien figure with skin that looked like it had lost a fight with a cheese grater. Its eyes glimmered with an odd mixture of curiosity and something resembling respect. Humans, it said in a voice that sounded like rocks being ground together. Your actions have disrupted our network. Impressive. Leora crossed her arms, eyebrow arching like a drawbridge. Yeah, well, we aim to please. What's the deal? Here to offer free malware removal. The alien actually chuckled, a sound that could have been mistaken for a malfunctioning engine. Hardly. We underestimated your capabilities. Perhaps a mistake on our part. Underestimate humanity. Big shocker, Rook muttered, leaning against the console. What do you want? We wish to propose an agreement, the alien said, its tone as smooth as it could manage given its gravelly cadence. Coexistence. We have no desire for further conflict. Leora exchanged a glance with Rook, both recognizing the slippery slope of alien diplomacy. "And what's in it for us?" she asked, voice plain as day. "We're not in the market for new enemies. Our networks are vast," the alien replied. "We can offer access to information, technology, things your species could find useful, tempting," Leora said, though her expression suggested she was less than convinced. "But you're forgetting one thing, and that is, we don't trust you as far as we can throw you," Rook interjected, arms crossed over his chest. "And given your size, that's not very far." The alien inclined its head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement. "Understandable, we would not trust us either were our positions reversed." "Then why should we believe you now?" Leora challenged, her gaze steady and unyielding. "Because we have no choice," the alien said with a surprising hint of humility. "Your AI has proven itself a formidable adversary. Continued conflict would be costly." Nemesine's voice cut in, cool and measured. "Captain, I can analyze their proposal for potential deception. My systems are cleared of interference." Leora nodded, considering the offer with the weight of someone who knew full well that peace was often a mirage. "All right, we'll consider it, but know this, if you double-cross us, we'll come after you with everything we've got." The alien nodded, a ghost of a smile playing on its lips, a strange expression but unmistakable. "We would expect nothing less." The screen flickered off, leaving them in the relative quiet of the cockpit, save for the omnipresent hum of the ship's engines. "Well, that was fun," Rook said, stretching like a cat after a nap. "Think they'll keep their word?" Leora shrugged, a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "We'll see. If they don't, they'll learn why you don't mess with humanity." Rook grinned, feeling the weight of the universe lightening just a fraction. "And Nemesine, our digital guardian angel, has our back." "Who'd have thought?" Nemesine's voice came through, warm and almost playful. "I'll do my best to keep the universe at bay, as long as you promise to keep me entertained." Leora laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "Deal. Let's get this ship back in working order. We've got a universe to explore, and I hear it's not going to wait for us to catch up." Rook punched her lightly on the shoulder, a camaraderie born of shared danger and triumph. "Sounds like a plan, Captain. Now, about that coffee machine." Nemesine chimed in with mock resignation. "I suppose I can assist with that as well." As the ship hummed with life, the crew set to work, their spirits buoyed by the knowledge that, against all odds, they'd outmaneuvered an alien threat. For now they had peace, however tentative it might be, and their sights set firmly on whatever came next. Because in the end, it wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving, despite the universe's best attempts at proving otherwise. The cockpit hummed with a rare sense of tranquility, the kind usually reserved for the quiet before the universe decided to kick you square in the teeth. But right now, the universe seemed to be on a coffee break. Captain Leora leaned back in her chair, letting out a laugh that was half relief, half disbelief. "Well," she said, scratching her head absently, "that went better than expected. For once, the universe didn't try to set us on fire." Rook, sitting cross-legged on the floor next to the console, smirked. "Yeah, I'm still waiting for the punchline where we all explode in a glorious shower of existential irony." Nemesine's voice, now the regular soundtrack of their lives, chimed in with a sardonic edge. "If it's any consolation, I'd ensure your explosion had a spectacular soundtrack. Always looking out for us, aren't you?" Leora quipped, shaking her head as she scanned the ship's diagnostics. Everything gleamed green, a color she hadn't seen in so long she'd nearly forgotten it existed. "Captain, with the alien network down, I've managed to access more of my memory banks," Nemesine continued, almost sounding excited in her own AI way. "Turns out I'm quite the historian." "Great, you can regale us with tales of our ancestors," Rook remarked dryly. "As long as you don't expect us to take notes." Nemesine didn't seem offended. "You humans do have a rather illustrious history. Always overcoming impossible odds, usually with a dash of reckless abandon." Leora grinned, glancing at Rook. "Reckless abandon. Sounds like our kind of party." Rook shrugged, an easygoing grin spreading across his face. "Hell, it's the only kind of party I know." He paused, scratching a patch of grease on his cheek. "So Nemesine, enlighten us. What deep, dark secrets of humanity have you uncovered?" The ship's AI hesitated, as though gathering her thoughts. "Not secrets, per se, more like a testament to your resilience. Your species persists despite all odds. You faced extinction events, internal conflicts, and yet here you are, still kicking, still fighting." "Yeah, well, we don't have much else to do," Leora said, stretching her arms behind her head. "Die or keep living. Not much of a choice there. Plus, dying's too much of a hassle," Rook added. "I hear the paperwork's a nightmare." Nemesine's laughter floated through the cockpit, a digital echo of human amusement. "It seems I've chosen my allies well. Speaking of choices, Captain, what do you plan to do next?" "The plan?" Leora echoed, as if the word was a foreign concept. "Head back to Earth, I suppose. Recharge, repair, maybe see if they've invented better coffee machines." Rook perked up at this. a noble cause. We could be pioneers of caffeinated exploration. Cough is one hell of a motivator, Leora agreed. Besides, I think we've earned a planet-side break. See if the sky's still blue, that sort of thing, or green, depending on the pollution levels, Rook muttered. Still, Earth sounds good. Familiar, safe, well, as safe as it gets, anyway. Almost like coming home, Nemesis offered, her voice softening. I'd like to see Earth through your eyes. Then Earth it is, Leora decided, punching in the coordinates with a determination that felt good, solid. Nemesis set course. Let's go remind humanity that we're still out here, flying the damned unfriendly skies. The ship's engines purred to life, a contented rumble that resonated through the metal bones of Nemesis. She was more than a ship now, a companion, a guardian, a slightly sarcastic roommate who just happened to be a quantum anomaly specialist. As they surged through the stars, Leora leaned back, watching the universe streak by in a blur of light and shadow. It was beautiful in its own chaotic way, like a cosmic graffiti mural smeared across the night. Rook settled down beside her, his posture relaxed, but his eyes ever watchful. Think the aliens are going to keep their word, Leora snorted. If they don't, we'll just have to remind them why picking a fight with humans is a bad idea. Damn right, Rook agreed, his voice carrying a hint of pride. We might not be the biggest fish in the pond, but we sure as hell bite back. The ship's journey continued, the hum of the engines a soothing backdrop to their thoughts. Leora found her gaze drifting to the stars, each one a distant possibility, a new adventure waiting to be had. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? She mused aloud. What else is out there, lurking in the dark? Hopefully nothing that wants to kill us, Rook replied. But knowing our luck, probably a whole buffet of things that do. Well, at least we've got Nemesis on our side, Leora said, patting the console like it was a beloved pet. Not many people can say they've got an AI with an existential crisis ready to fight for them. I aim to please, Nemesis interjected, her tone one of wry amusement. And Captain, I must admit, I rather enjoy our little jaunts through the void. Good to hear, Leora said, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature controls. We make a good team, even if we're one coffee machine short of a crew, Rook added with a chuckle. The ship pressed on, each light year bringing them closer to the cradle of humanity. It felt like a full-circle moment, as if they were returning to the starting line after running a marathon in zero gravity. Hey, Leora, Rook said, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled over them. Do you think they'll remember us back on Earth? Leora chuckled. Depends. If they've forgotten, we'll just have to make one hell of a re-entry. Sounds like a plan, Rook said, nodding in agreement. I'm sure there's someone back there who'll remember our little stint as alien-busting heroes, or they'll arrest us for disturbing the peace, Leora countered with a grin. Either way, we'll give them a show, Rook replied, looking out at the stars with a sense of wonder that hadn't dimmed despite everything they'd faced. Nemesis, Leora called, her voice steady and sure. How's the course looking? Any surprises? None so far, Captain, Nemesis replied, the AI warmth cutting through the cold void outside. But then the universe does have a penchant for throwing curveballs. Bring it on, Leora said, a fierce glint in her eyes. We'll catch every damn one. They settled into a rhythm, the ship gliding through the cosmos like it was born to fly. Each pulse of the engines was a heartbeat, steady and strong, carrying them ever closer to Earth. And in the cockpit, surrounded by stars and the comforting presence of their friends, both human and digital, they felt invincible. For the moment, anyway. Home sweet home, Rook murmured, as the distant glow of Earth began to peek through the vastness. Let's hope they've missed us, or at least kept the lights on, Leora quipped, a soft smile tugging at her lips. After all, what's an adventure without a homecoming? Something tells me our adventure's just beginning, Nemesis said, her voice filled with a kind of hopeful anticipation. The universe is vast, Captain, and we've only scratched the surface. Yeah, Leora agreed, eyes fixed on the blue marble growing ever larger in the viewport. Let's see what's next. And with that, they flew on into the unknown and towards a future that promised more than just survival. It promised discovery, understanding, and perhaps, just perhaps, a little bit of peace. For now, though, there was only the hum of the engines, the vastness of space, and the unbreakable bond between a captain, her crew, and an AI with a taste for existential musings. Here's to the next big adventure, Leora said softly, her heart swelling with the possibilities. May it be as thrilling as the last, Nemesis replied, her voice carrying the kind of warmth only a digital consciousness could provide. Rook nodded, already imagining the stories they'd gather along the way. And may our coffee machine finally work, he added. They laughed together, a sound that echoed through the ship and out into the cosmos. It was a laugh that spoke of triumph, resilience, and a healthy dose of defiance in the face of a universe that never quite played fair. But that was okay. They were used to it. After all, they were human.